Julie Manchester, politics reporter for The Hill. Phil Wegman, White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics, both with us tonight. Great to see you. I thought it was really interesting what Nancy Mace had to say, if for no other reason than what she had to say, I think it's now 5 or 6 months ago on The Hill. Take a listen.
I don't think either side wants to see two 80-year-old guys going at it. I'd love to see a woman on the ticket.
That's when I asked if she was going to endorse it.
Well, for more on Nancy Mace's loyalty, we should go straight to former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Frankly, this is not the first ally that Nancy Mace has stabbed in the back, and it's not the last. And something that I find so remarkable about her backing of Donald Trump is that on January 6th, 2021, one of the congresswomen who I spoke with was then freshman Representative Nancy Mace, and she told me that the reason why she was so disappointed in that day is that all of his policy accomplishments, in her words, had been wiped away. If you look at her endorsement of Trump, why did she endorse him this time around? Because of his policy accomplishments. So Representative Mace, she seems to be a congresswoman who will give her endorsement based on the way the wind is blowing.
You know what they say about politics being the second oldest profession that exists in the world. Julia, I think about how we deal with what Donald Trump is doing. He doesn't attack people and he doesn't give them airtime if he isn't worried about them, right? What does it say that he's spending a lot of time on Nikki Haley, his campaign spending a lot of time on Nikki Haley, and then on RFK Jr.?
Yeah, it would seem to expose some sort of worry. And I think with RFK Jr. in particular, look, remember last summer when he sort of came on the political scene and we saw Republicans almost going along with it, saying, oh, yeah, he should run, because then the political logic was, oh, we take votes away from the Democrats. Now we've seen polling that has suggested he actually takes votes away from Donald Trump. So we've seen the RNC and Donald Trump change their tune on RFK Jr. Nikki Haley is a different scenario, because Donald Trump in every single poll is leading her in South Carolina, at least by 30 points. The Hill Decision Desk average shows Trump leading Haley by 57% nationally. So that is a good question. Look, I think as long as he is not seen as the presumptive Republican nominee, as long as he still has a challenger, he still views that as a threat. He can't focus on Joe Biden directly. He's splitting his time between her and Nikki Haley and Joe Biden.
I have asked multiple times to people involved in the Trump campaign, if Nikki Haley is so far behind and has no chance, as the Trump campaign says, and if Donald Trump has this sewn up, as the Donald Trump campaign says, why give her the airtime, right? Why not just do this, ignore, say I'm focusing on Joe Biden, and move on? They never have a good answer to that. And my question to you, Phil, is we've seen so often, and we saw it in 2016, how effective Donald Trump was at clearing the field, right? And he was able to sort of go through the Republican field like a combine. But when it's one-on-one, when it was one-on-one with Hillary Clinton, it was very close. When it was one-on-one with Joe Biden, he lost. Now it's one-on-one with Nikki Haley, and I'm wondering if that doesn't change the dynamic.
I think that it does, and the reason why they are concerned about Nikki Haley is not because they think that she can come behind in South Carolina or Nevada. Their fear is that this becomes a knockout, drag-out fight for the long term. And right now, Donald Trump, he needs two things going into a general election. He needs to get the base behind him, also not entirely alienate those independent and moderate voters, and he also needs to get GOP donors to line up behind him. So long as Nikki Haley is in the field, so long as she's running against him and providing an alternative, she's speaking to those moderate voters. She's giving them an alternative. She's speaking to those donors who, would otherwise be backing a challenger of Joe Biden entirely. They want her gone, and they want her gone as quickly as possible.
In terms of the bigger threat to Donald Trump as they see it, latest polling, and you showed this, I thought it was important. Joe Biden, 39%, Donald Trump, 37%, Kennedy, 14%. You point out that a lot of the Trump vote goes to Robert Kennedy. What issue is the Trump campaign focused on here that they think is so appealing about RFK?
In terms of what's so appealing about RFK, look, he's getting an umbrella of voters, or he has a broad umbrella of voters who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, or voters who voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump in 2020. He's really zeroing in. We've seen him zero in on this idea of COVID restrictions. And I know we're sort of past COVID now, but at the same time, that's a way for him to distinguish himself from President Trump, who has, talked about his record during the coronavirus. So I think that's what you're seeing.
And that's what,
driving it.
That's what RFK is coming back on. Radicals shutting down the country with no due process. So he's attacking Trump on that. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.